Even when it comes to guns, I do think there is a point where you want to use what's comfortable over what's meta, but it's not like a binary. You can't just use an MCW because you're comfortable with it because it shoots straight in Warzone and expect to do well. It's not good enough, especially with the STG. You're never gonna do well with an MCW. I don't care how comfortable you are with it, but there is a conversation to be had about using a comfortable gun that's A tier versus a meta S tier gun that you miss way more bullets with. Use the timestamps to skip to whatever section you want, which are conveniently linked for you in the video description or the show notes on apps. You're about to listen to one of our Patreon bonus episodes for this month. If you want more episodes like this, in addition to ad-free and early access to all of our public episodes, visit patreon.com/thedropshot. We hope you enjoy.
When was the last time you had a breakfast burrito?
When I got scammed by Denny's.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was fine.
Serviceable, yeah.
It was serviceable, yeah, exactly. We are live! We're not live, actually. We're recording. Welcome, boys and girls, to the Dropshot Call of Duty podcast, Patreon bonus episode number 178, aka Patreon Gone Public. Today, we are going to be talking all about Call of Duty. Now, this was originally a Patreon bonus episode that we released on the 15th of August. However, if you're not listening to it on Patreon, then you must be listening to it in the public feed on Saturday. So that's replacing the Saturday episode. If you're hearing this at that time, I'm currently at the gun range shooting guns for the very first time. I will be vlogging about it. Not the first time, of course, because I was in the Corps, but first time in a long time, I should say. I will, be vlogging about it and posting that in the Discord. So join the Discord if you want to see that. See how much of an expert marksman I am. Now, what we're doing today is I am a hero, and I deserve military discounts and you to become a patron. What we're doing today is a little sneak preview of what our Patreon bonus episodes are like. This is literally a bonus episode that we are doing now. So if you've been considering joining the Patreon, if you don't want to hear ads anymore, if you want to get the episodes early, if you want to get more content, minimum 3 bonus episodes a month if you become a patron at any tier, up to 5, depending on which tier you go. This will be a little, kind of sampler for you. We do this every once in a while, just to, let people know what it's like behind the paywall. And I think this is a good episode topic. It's a good representation of what our bonus episodes are like and will continue to be like. So if you've wanted more content or if you've been thinking about it, it's $5 for an entire month. Many of you spend more than that for a single venti caramel frappuccino, extra caramel, extra whipped cream.
Wow, yeah.
You disgust me, by the way, if you do that.
For breakfast, by the way.
You could become a patron for less than the cost of that. And also, you will not be taking that extra step toward diabetes and needing to visit Surgery Boy, aka Flores, to chop off your feet. Yeah. Because you've gone into a diabetic coma and you don't have enough
That's a good point. Yeah. Also, Starbucks supports genocide, so that's why there's a little boycott against them.
Oh, Schultz is Jewish, isn't he?
And we love Hamas, so you guys should support us.
Tanner!
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Oh, we don't?
We do not love Hamas, man.
Oh, shoot.
Just to be clear, this is going public, man. You can't make jokes like that. We do not support Hamas.
Support
El Hamas. Okay. El Hamas. W Call of Duty. W Israel also, I would say, generally speaking. Not that they're perfect, but that's not the topic of today's episode. Super isn't. The topic of today's episode is a mixed bag episode. So we're going to talk about Call of Duty. I have brought some of my own little micro topics to the table, and then we're going to go to Discord and get some of your guys' micro topics to talk about as well. So let's dive in, and we're going to start with some things we've brought to
What'd you bring, man? Show us what you brought.
So, and yeah, just by the way, what this episode is talking about Call of Duty and talking about things that like could be episodes, but just wouldn't take long enough to talk about. So, you know, if someone's like, hey, what do you guys think like is the meta whatever right now? We could probably talk about that for 20 minutes, but it wouldn't comprise a whole episode. So we're bundling things like that together to make an episode. So that's kind of the through line. So I'm going to start with some things, again, some little micro topics that we've brought, and then we're going to go to the Discord and get some from you guys. And if you wanted to add your own suggestions for mixed bag episodes, micro topics like this, join the Discord, link your Patreon and Discord account, and then there's a micro topic suggestions channel in the Discord that will open up to you, and you can put whatever you want there. So yeah, starting with ours. A couple things I have here. Number one is having multiple loadouts set up again. This is definitely, well, this is relevant on Rebirth and on Urzikstan, potentially, but for different reasons. So having multiple loadouts set up for Rebirth, I think is like a requirement, because especially if you don't play with a full stack, but even if you do, I think it's relevant. And that's mainly for the purpose of being able to buy both of your custom guns, you know, because a lot of times in Rebirth, you, and again, especially if you're solo queuing and you just have randoms on your team, you're not going to be able to coordinate enough to get your teammates money and buy a loadout. Like sometimes that's just not happening. And then also the free loadout that drops on Rebirth or any Resurgence map, I would say, is not safe and you cannot get it. So the next best thing is to just buy your own gun for 2,500 or buy two of your own guns for 5K total. That's the obvious reason to have multiple loadouts set up for Resurgence. So, you know, you have a custom class 1 that has your STG in the primary slot, and then custom class 2 has your static in the secondary slot.
Yeah.
And that way, you know, and they are otherwise the same class. You're just swapping where the weapons sit so that you can buy them at the buy station easily. So that's like a must. You should absolutely be doing that. And that's obvious. But as far as big map goes, having multiple loadouts set up used to be a thing we all did because you didn't get overkill by default. So if you did play back in the Verdansk days, you would have your loadout, you'd have a loadout that has, typically you would do a primary and then a pistol. So you'd have like you'd have overkill as your red perk, and then you'd have both of your guns. So Grau is the primary, and then like MP5 is the secondary. And you'd pick that up at your first loadout. And then you'd set up a second loadout where you would get another AR, but you'd have fully loaded on it. So you'd get max ammo. And then you'd have a pistol as the secondary so that you could you'd run the red perk of Ghost. And then your secondary would be a pistol since you can't run overkill anymore. And then you put fully loaded on that pistol as well. And then what you would do is you'd run up to your second loadout. Typically, you'd buy your first, and then the free loadout drops. You'd pick up your Ghost loadout, and then you would just pick up the two guns you had just dropped on the ground. Voila, you have two primaries, and you have Ghost also. So this is a thing we all used to do.
Yeah.
But don't really do anymore because you get overkill by default now. You don't have to sack a perk slot for it. However, some people were talking in Discord, and I had been having this thought as well, although I have not yet acted upon it for Urzikstan anyway, of setting up multiple loadouts for reasons other than, obviously, getting Ghost. And there are a lot of things you could do with this, obviously. Now, of course, one reason you might do this is to change up what perks you're running, depending on where you are in the game or whatever. I don't really think that's relevant, though.
No, I don't think so. Not in this version of Warzone with the current state of the game. Yeah, I don't think there's a need to change your perks late game, early game. Also, with the bunkers currently being a thing, you can get specialists. You can buy specialists if you really want. After like playing more now and like we've been doing more contracts and stuff early game, it's not that outrageous to pay that price for specialists. Like you'll have that money if you just do a couple contracts early on. It's not too difficult, and then kill
really
people
isn't.
and get their specialist
Exactly.
Specialist perk package, because every bunker pretty much has two specialist packages. You have one in the open room usually, and then you usually have one in the treasury room. I think the treasury one's guaranteed. The open one in the back is like always there when I check, so that's common too.
Yeah, true. And if there's a fire sale, by the way, specialist is only 15K, which is super doable, like mid-game, once you all have loadout and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if you've hit a bunker, because that also gives you a lot of money. So, yeah, it's not that outrageous. And specialist is pretty common, actually. So, yeah, I think setting up multiple loadouts to change out perks, even if that weren't true, by the way, even if there was no specialist, I still can't see any perks that are like really good, you know, earlier mid game and fall off like late game. I think you kind of pick what perks you want, and they're always pretty good right now, just based on what perks we have in the game, really. If I thought really hard about it, maybe, but not like significant, I don't think. But setting up multiple loadouts for different guns, I think, is a good idea. Whether you are actually going to get a loadout crate or just, again, go to the buy station and buy it that way is immaterial. You'd have to set up multiple loadouts anyway. And I think this is kind of a good idea, honestly. One thing, for example, that I think I want to do is set up. So I had been using attack stance static instead of like an ADS build. And by the way, I tested an ADS build for the last like 3 weeks, and I've lost like 500 SR, and I barely put that together. Yes, like yesterday. I finally figured out, I was like, oh, what's changed between when we were winning a lot of games and getting farmed? It's me trying this ADS static build. I can't compete. I can't do it on Rebirth. I'm not good enough to aim that precisely to compete with like diamond and up controller players on Rebirth up close with an ADS build. I'm just not good enough. I need to stop trying. I don't even know why I am. So I'm going back. I'm not kidding. I'm going back to attack stance build, because when I was running the attack stance build, I was winning way more up close gunfights. I had a chance, and like right now, I just don't. I'm not good enough. I can't aim that well. I just can't. I can't do it. And it pisses me off that it took me this long to figure it out, but I finally did. So anyways, that's one thing. Like I have so on Urzikstan, I'll be running, for example, STG and attack stance static. And that is a really good build, and I'm definitely going to win more gunfights up close with a attack stance build than like an ADS build. However, I think something that's a really good idea to do is have another loadout set up that is a static ADS build specifically with a Spectre on it. And the reason I wouldn't just always run that, again, is because early game and even mid game, I'm not going to be like in smoke trying to kill people and needing a thermal to like make that easier. And in fact, it's just going to make getting kills with the SMG harder early and mid game, because usually when I'm fighting with an SMG early and mid game, I'm not trying to find people in smoke that are rotating. I'm pushing a building or being pushed in a building without any smoke around. And in that scenario, I would much rather have my tac stance build than an ADS Spectre thermal build. I'm going to win way more gunfights that way. But going into late game, that changes 100%. I would much rather have the Spectre at that point, because now every up close gunfight, there are going to be 4 smokes thrown. and then you can just get kills for free with the Spectre. This is something I've already done, by the way, and I was telling everyone I was playing with at the time, I'm getting literally at least 2 kills I would not have otherwise gotten late game by having the Spectre on my SMG, because they don't know where I am, and I'm just killing them while they're trying to find me or running away because they're weak. Like literally just 2 free kills that I absolutely would not have gotten otherwise. But I was suffering in the early game to do that by having that build the whole game, when what I should have been doing is this, setting up multiple loadouts, and then just hitting a buy station going into late game, or hitting the free loadout crate, the second one, if it's safe, and just picking up that Spectre. Boom.
Yeah.
And then swap it out. Done. There's like no reason to not be doing that other than I haven't thought yet to set up that custom class, because it's only $2,500 to just buy the gun.
Yeah, you don't think about buying guns late game once you've had your loadout the entire game.
Exactly.
That's the more likely scenario, because like getting to a buy station that late is, it's totally, getting to your loadout late game is totally hit or miss. Like a lot of times that
completely luck based,
that loadout could be in the best possible spot for you. Most of the time, though, I would say it's fairly inaccessible. So, yeah, you kind of got to rely on the buy station thing.
Yeah,
I saw somebody post it. Either it was a Patreon comment or in our Discord.
Someone in Discord posted about it.
But they posted
also
about like late game, I swapped to a thermal STG, and I was like, that's a
Which
good
is a
idea.
Thermal.
Yeah.
The SZ holotherm.
Yeah. That's what I would do rather than an SMG, especially with right now's meta since the STG is so good. That's what I would, I think, rather do late game, because you get in that, like, 5th circle where the circle's small, but you still need something long range, and, people are all fighting around the edge of the circle, so I'd rather have an AR with a thermal there, and then everybody's rotating in. I think that's a good idea, so I think that's a smart thing to do is, like you were saying, set up 2 identical classes. The only thing is you swap the SMG as the first gun and then the AR as the first gun and put them in each loadout, so you can go to the buy station, because you can only buy the primary in your loadout. So you go to the buy station, you're able to buy your SMG and your AR, and then set up, I guess you can pretty much do 2 more and then just set up thermal builds. So set up an SMG with the holotherm, so you can select that for your 3rd primary when you go to a buy station, and then for the 4th, set your STG with the SZ holotherm. So all of those are accessible for you to buy for so cheap at any point during the match.
Yeah.
Because, there are times where you'd want to swap. And for late game, as you were saying, swapping perk packages, it's cute, but again, totally luck-based if you can hit it or not. Honestly, if I'm swapping perk packages at the end, I'm putting Shrouded on. I'm picking up a perk package with Shrouded. So if I get down to late game, it pops a smoke. And when you're playing a team-based mode, trios, quads, that's enough smoke to cover your entire team, because you're going to be that close to each other. So that's going to help you a lot, other than if the other team has thermals, and still most people are not running thermals. So I would rather run that late game than Ghost, Flex, Combat Scout, even High Alert, all of that, I think.
Yeah, maybe. That I'm not sure if I'd rather have that or High Alert. Like you said, it depends on the circle.
It's late game. High Alert doesn't matter. I know there are going to be people everywhere. I'm not gaining any intel from that.
I am sometimes late game. Like, if you're downtown, I think High Alert, even very late, is really good. Because there are rooftops all around you, so there's a lot more than just, like, it's not 360 degrees on one plane. Like, if you're fighting in the hills above cargo, I'm kind of with you. High Alert's not very helpful. Because, like, you're going to know, okay, there's a team over there, and there's a team over there also. That, like, I'm good. So if I'm getting shot from this direction, or what, well, if I know what direction they're in, then as soon as they peek me, I'm going to know where they are. Or as soon as I start getting shot from that direction, obviously I'm going to know where they are. Whereas if it's like a downtown ending and I'm on like this roof, or I'm in this doorway, or I'm on this window, or I'm in the ground or I'm on the ground here, and I get a High Alert ping from whatever, this direction, I want that little extra bit of time, because not only because I know what direction I'm getting shot from or getting looked at from, but I need time to scan vertically to find out where they are. Okay, are they on the ground shooting me to my right where I'm getting this high alert ping from? Are they in a window? Are they on the roof? Like, I want that extra time. I see what you're saying, though, and that is something like worth doing. And yeah, also with the holotherm as well for the STG, that could be worth doing as well. For me, I wouldn't do it because if I'm running a holo STG, I think that's good the whole game. Like the microtherm early game, in my opinion, is a hindrance, but late game it becomes a boon. But the holotherm on the STG, to me, that's always like good. So I don't feel that if I'm running that gun, I feel like it's totally fine to run it early and then I just keep it for late game. But for a lot of people, that's not true at all.
Yeah.
They hate it. And they feel like they're losing kills early in mid game that they would have gotten with like a glassless. So for those people, which is probably the majority, honestly, that it would be worth setting up a holotherm STG for that purpose as well. Yeah, I agree. And if you do this, by the way, don't feel like you absolutely have to switch to it late game. Like, don't like do a shitty buy. Like, don't go to like a sketchy buy just to buy your thermal optic guns and then just die doing it. And then it was all for naught, like obviously, but do it so that in the event you can get to a buy pretty easily, or you find a portable buy station, boom, you're good. Just get it. Get it if the opportunity presents itself, but don't feel like you have to go out of your way to do it. You obviously don't. But there are a lot of situations where you can sneak in a little buy, and for 2,500 to be able to see through smoke end game, that's always worth it in my opinion. So I would recommend you guys do that. I haven't done it yet myself, like I said, but I'm going to set that up.
Yeah.
I would also, a couple little quick tips. Name the loadouts, what they are clearly, so that when you're in the middle of an end game and your heart rate is 200 BPM and you're panicking, it is as clear as possible what you're trying to buy. And you don't get confused or like buy the wrong gun or something, you know, like name it clearly. And then also keep the perks the same. Pay attention to the perks on these, because sometimes you'll just be buying the gun, so the perks in that loadout don't matter. But sometimes a buy will not be accessible, but your second free loadout drop will be accessible. So if you want to get your gun or guns that way, you want to make sure the perks are the same, or whatever perks you want late game, which for me would be the same as my perks for the whole game, so that you don't like screw over your perk package by getting your thermal guns.
Yeah.
You could like pick up the perk package you dropped, I guess, but why? I'd rather not have to worry about doing that. So just pay attention to that as well. But yeah, that's something I want to do. And think about doing. And then speaking of perks also, I've been watching a lot of Metaphor lately. Now, for those of you who don't know, he is a keyboard and mouse toxic player who's extremely good. And he mostly plays solo or duo. In fact, I've never seen him play more than duos before. I think he does every once in a while, but 90% of the time he's playing Warzone, and he's playing by himself.
Yeah.
Sometimes he plays in the solo playlist. Oftentimes he does solo duos or solo quads, but he's playing by himself most of the time. So, and he's on keyboard and mouse. So those are two things that I'm sure color what I'm about to say here. But basically he's like, dude, you have to run cold-blooded in this game, because if you're fighting someone who has specialist or combat scout, you're automatically dead every time and you can't compete. So he's like, I would love to be running quick fix instead, but I have to run cold-blooded because so many people run combat scout or find specialist that I can't move my character because they're just going to rip me through smoke. And even if they don't have combat scout, they could have thermal optics instead.
Yeah. And
again, cold-blooded helps there too, because you don't light up through
smoke.
with thermals.
Yeah.
Through smoke. Yeah. By the way, with the holotherm, I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive you still see people with cold-blooded and smoke. Because
that's what I'm pretty sure you do, because it's still thermal.
Yeah.
They just don't get highlighted like they otherwise would.
Exactly.
I think,
So
but I'm really not sure.
Clearly.
I've not used thermals
I'm
that
almost
much.
positive, because I've used a holotherm a lot, and no one has ever disappeared in smoke for me, which I find impossible statistically with how much I've used it and how many specialists there are in the game. I find it impossible that none of these people didn't have cold-blooded. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure you do still see people, but regardless, it does help, of course. And it made me think, and by the way, cold-blooded, perk slot 3. So you'd be giving up tempered or quick fix to run this. Is that worth doing for the average player? Because another thing Metaphor does, again, especially if you're solo quadding, you kind of have to do what he does, which is basically like, all right, I'm pushing these 4 people. I'm throwing a smoke at all of them, and I'm going to try and live ping one, and then just kill them through the smoke. That's what I'm going to do. And then like reset, replate, reload, and do it again. And he just systematically dismantles a 4-stack by like smoking the group, going in, singling one out, killing him, resetting. Now there's only 3, do it again.
Yep.
Now there's only 2, do it again. And then it's a 1v1, see ya. But it requires smoke grenades to do that. He doesn't even try unless he has smokes. So for him, it makes a ton of sense that he like needs cold-blooded.
Yeah, it's his play style
obviously.
too. How he always throws the smoke in it during a push.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, by the way, if you're in a smoke grenade, you completely lose aim assist. So use that to your advantage, whether you're on controller or keyboard and mouse. Be inside of smoke if you don't want to die, because not only will it obstruct their vision, but even if they can see you, they at least don't have aim assist anymore, so they're going to be missing a lot more bullets. That's like another reason smokes will keep you alive a long time. But yeah, would it ever be worth for like the average player to be running cold-blooded on Urzikstan or in Resurgence? And keep in mind, again, you're giving up either tempered or quick fix to do that.
Certainly not for Resurgence, I don't believe, but in the current state, no. If we get to a point soon, which we very well may, because there are a lot of people running Combat Scout now or having Specialists, it may become some sort of cold-blooded meta here soon, within like a month or two, possibly. It all just depends on how many people run Combat Scout, essentially. I would consider running it, because it's becoming a lot. Even like, you know, a lot of the ground loot perk packages have Combat Scout in it. And so, in case you guys don't know, if you get hit by somebody who's running Combat Scout, below your reticle, between the very bottom of your screen and your reticle, it'll say spotted. And there's also like a little
audio.
There's a little audio. So you know when you've been hit and spotted by somebody running Combat Scout. So use that to your advantage. Don't re-peek, you know, play smart angles. Run away if you have to. Just don't peek that same angle, because they're going to be pre-firing you, because they know exactly where you're coming from. So it's easy to tell. Just look out for that spotted icon on your HUD. But yeah, as of right now, I would say no, but I can see cold-blooded becoming the move here soon. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and by the way, Combat Scout is becoming a lot more common.
Very. Yep.
So that's why I'm asking, because like we might already be to where you're saying. Like there are a lot of people running Combat Scout, honestly. And like I love quick fix, but I'm going to try running this on Urzikstan. I agree, in Rebirth, I don't think it's worth it. No. I don't think so at all. Because like quick fix can save you so many times, especially with how hot Rebirth is, you know, like that's so much health regen you're getting. Like I wonder how much you're healing on average with quick fix per game on Rebirth. I wouldn't be surprised if it was literally like 1,000 plus.
Oh yeah,
that you wouldn't otherwise be getting. Like it's so much more health. And quick fix, unlike tempered, will heal you in the middle of a gunfight, when you don't have time to plate.
Or in
so
gas.
Tempered doesn't help you there. Or in gas. Get a down in gas. Boom, you're healing. Can't do that with Tempered. Can't even plate with Tempered in gas. And you can't even do it with a stim. But you can with quick fix. So you might be able to with a stim actually, but you'd have to be stimming rather than like tack sprinting, which I need to be doing more.
You can stim in the gas if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I know. You can.
Yeah.
But it
doesn't work like it did in Warzone 1 though. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. You'll heal until the next damage tick, which is the same as what quick fix does, to be fair, but that's still some healing.
Yeah.
So anyways, but yeah, I'm gonna try running it. I think if you're running Tempered, it's definitely worth giving up to take Cold-Blooded, because you can find Tempered vests, and you can find them pretty often. Also,
if you're running Tempered, you just shouldn't be. Yeah, like
that's the better especially answer. On Urzikstan. With all the bunkers now, you'll always find a Tempered vest, dude. Like someone's got
high value loot zones. You find one every time.
Yeah, we regularly with 4 people will all be running quick fix and also have Tempered vests on regularly. Like, it's not hard. So I think running Tempered is actually just insane on Urzikstan. Maybe on Rebirth if you prefer that, but I still don't think it's worth it. I still think quick fix is better. So if you're running Tempered, just don't. But if you like don't care about quick fix and you refuse to run it, so you're running Tempered instead, I think it's giga worth giving that up for Cold-Blooded. Because again, you can find Tempered vests. So just another thing to kind of consider, and I'm going to give that a try as well, because you do get spotted pretty often. And then one other thing, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but one thing I've noticed, again, watching streamers play, people who are much better than I am, is I've been making a lot of mistakes, and I'm noticing them more as I watch people, again, better than I am play the game. I'm like, man, I don't do that. I need to start doing that. That could be a whole topic in itself because I'm shit. But one of those that I want to point out that I think that is a mistake I've been making a lot, and I would imagine a lot of people are, is that let's say you're like on the ground by prison on Rebirth, and someone's on the roof and they rip you and you're like 1 HP, and you manage to get behind a tiny sliver of cover where if you stand in exactly the right spot, they don't have line of sight on you, they can't do damage to you. If you get in that position, just stay there and plate and do not move. Don't throw a smoke. Don't try to like panic and run away and get to like better cover or whatever. Even if they can get line of sight on you inside of like 2 seconds, that's enough time for you to put in all of your plates.
Yeah.
And you need to just relax. And this is a mistake again, because I've been watching good players play, and they will be literally 1 health point. They'll find that piece of cover and they'll just stay there, fully plate, and then wait for their health to regen if they have time to. And then they'll like smoke and run or just run or whatever. But you usually, or at least I usually, underestimate how safe I'm there for and for how long I'm safe there. Like, you're overestimating how easy it is for that person shooting you to reposition and get line of sight on you again. Like, I know it feels scary, but you're safe as just not moving. And like, obviously someone else can come push you from behind and then you're dead. But you know what else is going to get you killed? Panicking, throwing a smoke, and then just trying to get to better cover. And that's exactly what I'm pointing out, is that I die that way a lot. Because I just panic and I'm like, dude, I want better cover. Like, I want to be in a house or like in a building or whatever. And instead of just staying in that little piece of cover where I was safe, I panic and I want to get even safer. And that is exactly what's getting me killed. And it's happening to me now that I've been watching these things, I've noticed I do this a lot. And it's like, dude, I need to start doing this. Because I'll be watching someone and I'll be like, dude, move. I'll be saying to myself, and they're not moving. They're just standing there behind the pillar, plating.
Yep.
And weapon inspecting, waiting for their health to regen. And then I'm like freaking out. I'm like, dude, all he has to do is like move whatever 20 feet to his right, and then you're dead here. But they don't. And guess what? You don't have perfect information. So maybe they can't move 20 feet to their right. Or maybe they're about to get pushed by some other team that you don't know is there. And they're not even going to be able to look at you in time or whatever. Or they're going to die doing that rotate to try and get line of sight on you again. You are like safer than you might think, basically, I guess. And again, the main point is, even if they can reposition and kill you, you might as well make them do it, because in that time you can hopefully start the health regen and get all your plates in. And if that happens, you're still in a better situation than if you hadn't waited and just ran out right away because you panicked. Because if you do that, you're dead. Even if you have a smoke, if you're one bullet, like, you're either not running as quickly through that smoke because you're plating while you're running through the smoke, so you're easier to shoot, or you're not plating and you're just tack sprinting with 1 HP, and then all they have to do is shoot into the smoke and get one bullet to hit you and you're dead.
Yeah.
So don't panic as much. That's my next, I don't know. That's something I need to work on. I thought I'd point it out.
Yeah, you do be panicking in some video games at times. Bro gets overwhelmed easily, huh?
Oh yeah, extremely, yeah.
The old tism kicks in and you get super overwhelmed, yeah. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add other than like watching Gigadad clips. This is exactly if you set yourself up in a good position, just don't move. And when you get shot, you see some of these super sweats play and they're snaking the whole time, plating up, sliding around, peeking. Gigadad just simply lays prone, plates up, peeks a different angle. If he gets shot, lays prone, plates up. Because also when you're not moving around as much, you hear a lot more sound cues. So you might hear somebody pushing you because you're not being a little 17-year-old maniac who's just constantly has to be moving. Just relax for a second. You get more intel that way. You're fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously that's not to say you should be stationary all the time or whatever. I'm talking about a very particular scenario. It's a common one, to be clear. You're one shot and you do have cover, but it's a very small piece of cover. That's a pretty particular specific scenario, but it's not an uncommon one. That's why I'm bringing it up. However, many scenarios are not like that, and you do want to be moving for sure a lot to not get shot. So it depends on the context, obviously. And that's not to say you shouldn't be peeking for intel while you're plating. Sometimes you should be doing that. Sometimes you shouldn't. It just depends on the scenario, but usually you want to be peeking while plating if you can, just to see if they're pushing you or not. But that's not really true if they're on a roof and you're not, because you'll hear them pushing you if they do. And if they're not pushing you, then you know where they are. They're not going to get off the roof. Yeah. So in that scenario, probably not worth it to be plating and peeking to see where they are necessarily. But if you're both on flat ground, that's when I think it's worth it. Yeah. Or if you're particularly far away, I think it's definitely worth it there. Not to know if they're pushing you necessarily, because they might be too far to be pushing you, but to see if they're repositioning, and if so, where they're repositioning to. So if you're 40 meters away, you're behind a building, so are they rip you, you go behind the building, get one plate in, re-peek while you're doing your second plate in. Because odds are they're going to be going diagonally to some other building. And now you know that. Whereas if you just stayed behind cover the whole time to plate, that's safer in some sense. But you're not going to die by strafing out for 1 millisecond and then going back in most of the time. Yeah. Can you get sniped that way? Yeah. I mean, you can sometimes, but usually you'd know if they're sniping. And then don't do that because you've seen the glint. You know what I mean? So it's you know, it's hard to be really good at the game. Obviously, there are a lot of different scenarios, and you have to approach them differently. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that. So now, unless Tanner, you have anything else?
No.
Okay, we're gonna go to Discord, where our esteemed patrons have given us some other micro topic suggestions. So again, the point of these are basically episode topics where ideas, but it's not enough content to fill a whole episode. It's just enough to fill some of an episode. So here we go. This is from Jaren. Riz Ticket 2024 is his name. I don't know what that means. And also, you're way too old to be saying Riz, so stop. What would make multiplayer fun for more than the initial camo grind? Great question.
It's a question, yeah.
And it's difficult. Obviously, this depends on who you ask, for sure.
Yeah.
But the number one thing I would say that makes multiplayer fun for me these days is the camo grind, the mastery camo grind, for sure. There are a couple of other things, though. Another one would be ranked play, ranked multiplayer. Now, in my case, ranked multiplayer, unfortunately, is too restrictive and too skewed toward controller to be fun. And also, I don't particularly love the game modes. So, like, I've said a lot that ranked Warzone makes Warzone way more fun because you care a lot more about winning and there's something else to grind for rather than just like getting another win or whatever. And I stand by that. And the same would apply to multiplayer, but I just don't love the ranked multiplayer rule set. You can't play like Dom, for example, and you can only use 2 guns. You can only use 2 perks, even though there are 4 perk slots. That you can only use 1 attachment on each gun. You can literally only use a cruise missile. It's like so confined in what you can do that it's just not that great. And also the game modes, I just don't love. I like Hardpoint. I also like Control, to be fair. Okay. I don't like Search and Destroy, though, at all. And also, again, I can't compete at a even remotely high level in ranked multiplayer because I'm on keyboard and mouse and I'm just not in the top 0.05%, which would put me on par with the average Crimson ranked play controller player. I can't do it because every gunfight is close in multiplayer.
Yeah,
like, pretty much. You can't even snipe in ranked multiplayer this year, by the way. You literally can't. You can't use any snipers. So like in ranked Warzone, I can compete. I just change my playstyle. I'll snipe. Or even if I can't snipe, even if there's no one-shot down snipers, that still doesn't preclude you from sniping, by the way, which we saw in Warzone 2. You couldn't one-shot snipe in Warzone 2. That's fine. I'll use a semi-auto sniper, hit someone in the head for 299 damage, and then my teammate just sneezes on them and they're down. It's still viable. So number one. And then number two, again, even if like snipers were literally banned, you can just change how you take gunfights in Warzone. That's possible to do in Warzone, which is what I do. I don't push buildings, stay far away, and then use my advantage of being on keyboard and mouse, which is long range accuracy. I think that does advantage KBAM.
Yeah.
Stay at those ranges and take gunfights that way, and then you can do super well. So you're not like super heavily disadvantaged in ranked Warzone, big map anyway, by being on one input or another, I don't think. Until you get to the absolute highest levels, in which case you again need to be on controller. But you can easily get like iridescent or even top 250 on big map ranked being on KBAM if you're good. Mm-hmm. Like easily. It's not a problem. The only problem is, again, like customs, World Series of Warzone. Yeah, you're going to have to still be on controller for that. But obviously for me, that doesn't matter. So that's why for me, normally, again, I would say ranked multiplayer would make multiplayer more fun after the initial camo grind. But another thing too could be dark ops challenges and cool calling cards and cool emblems and a cool like operator showcase and a cool lobby screen where people will actually see my calling card and see my showcase. And difficult dark ops challenges to go for, and like Black Ops 4, you know, that was, I played so much BO4 trying to get the nuke calling card that I like way more than I would have otherwise played, because I was trying to get that nuke, trying to get that 30 kill streak. And then once I got it, I was like, this is awesome. Now it's my calling card. Now I put it in my showcase, and now I'm playing more and I'm grinding for, you know, whatever, prestige 1,000 and then resetting or something. So I played a ton of that game for that reason, the dark ops challenges, and because I knew people would see that I've earned those dark ops challenges, which is really missing in this game and has been missing since MW19, frankly, from all the games, with the possible exception of Cold War, but that stuff wasn't added until after launch. So that would be another thing that would make multiplayer fun after the initial camo grind. And then also maybe Ground War coming back too. I honestly don't know if I'd play Ground War just for its own sake, frankly. After I got like the mastery camo, I'd still probably rather play Warzone at this point. But I would like to have Ground War back and it be fun as well.
It's not gonna ever be fun again. Yeah,
I don't think so either.
I don't know why MW19 was more fun, but it just was. MW19 multiplayer, I think, was just more fun at the time. I don't know. Here's the real answer. For me personally, what would make MP more fun for the initial camo grind if Warzone stopped existing? Otherwise, it's never gonna keep me entertained ever. It's just not. I moved past it. We're too old to want to play Respawn Call of Duty. It's an entirely uninteresting game mode at this point. I hate the game loop and the newer CODs, like multiplayer. I hate playing ranked when everyone running around with silent footsteps. It's not interesting to me. It's not fun. I don't like the metas. Nothing. Multiplayer COD just sucks. That's the way it is. So, yeah, I mean, it was great until Warzone started to exist. But once that comes out and you start playing that, and it feels so much more exciting, the gameplay loop is 100 times better, nothing will ever make multiplayer more interesting to me. MW3 is the best multiplayer we've had, and it's a, I don't know, great multiplayer.
Maybe ever.
Didn't play it at all, basically, once the camo grind was over. I don't even go back and do challenges there. I will rather do challenges in Plunder, BR, Resurgence. I don't even know the last time I launched multiplayer to queue for something. I don't remember how anything works. I don't pay attention to the perk packages. I don't know what perks are in the game in multiplayer. I do none of that. It's not interesting to me whatsoever anymore. I'm just beyond over it. So, it's not going to keep me entertained, personally, but I think that's kind of just how it is for most people. Either you play Warzone or you play multiplayer. Aren't a whole lot of people who go back between the two and play almost equal amounts of of both game modes. You're either a multiplayer main or a Warzone main, and it's just that simple. It's once you like have the feel for Warzone, if you appreciate and like that type of game mode, especially with
I tend to agree.
Especially with Resurgence and Rebirth existing, and it's Respawn and it's close to multiplayer, just a lot more exciting. I don't know why you would go back, but which that's kind of like the unfortunate thing about like all of the Black Ops 6, leaks and everything we're getting. It all looks great, but I know I'm gonna play it for 4 weeks and then basically not play the game anymore. So I guess it's cool that Warzone's getting the Omni movement and all of that from BO6. We'll get to mess around with some of that, but
the Warzone will also have that too.
Yeah, it's just like we played a ton of BO4, and you're saying like, oh, it's because Dark Ops challenges and stuff. Well, one, there wasn't a BR that we could play, so we didn't know what we were missing out on. So it was really fun at the time. It was competitive because it was a small group of people because we were playing on PC. There's no crossplay. So it wasn't nearly as rage-inducing because of that. And then also, the Dark Ops challenges and stuff back then, they meant more because, again, you're only playing Black Ops 4 multiplayer. Everybody who plays the game a decent amount knows what all the calling cards mean. Nobody has a goddamn clue. If you, going into BO6, if you get some weird Dark Ops challenge complete and you get some cool calling card, if you equip that and go play Warzone, I promise you I'm not going to have a clue what it means because there are 1,500 calling cards in the game. So it means nothing. They've overwhelmed the game with too much of that stuff. So for me, it just doesn't mean anything at this point. I recognize like 3 calling cards: the nuke one, the resurgence nuke one, and the nuke diffuse. I don't know what any of the other ones mean, basically. So it's just they've added too much like junk into the game, so that stuff doesn't mean anything. Too many junk
calling cards, and emblems and stuff. Yeah.
So like the Dark Ops challenges, that's cool, but I'm not going to care to go for them in multiplayer at all because it's filled with crap. But yeah. So for me personally, multiplayer just won't ever be fun again, and I came to realize that about 3 years ago now. So yeah, I'm just being honest. It's just not for me at all.
That's true. I think you're right. I think most people are like Warzone mains or multiplayer mains, and it's not. And it doesn't matter what they do to the other game mode. They're not going to like switch at this point. They're just in it for one thing only. Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah. And I think that's probably true ultimately for me as well. But like I did grind for the like Killer Master equivalent in this game, MW3. You need like whatever. This many like 15 kill streaks, you needed whatever, this many kills without dying. I don't know. It was like that. It was like Killer Master from BO4, but it was this game's version. And then the last one I needed that I didn't get passively was it was like get 10 like Fury kills, which is like a 4-kill multi-kill.
Yeah.
Which you're not really going to get that passively playing core unless you're really good. So I had like 1 or 2 out of like 10. So I was like, oh, I want because there's an additional mastery calling card if you get all of them. That was the last one I needed in that set. So I was like, I'm going to go for this. So I set up a thermal 200 round belt fed light machine gun LMG. Obviously I just said that twice. And then I played hardcore to like get it.
Yeah.
So I like grinded for that. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, by and large I agree with you.
Like even, you know, it even comes down to it with like the weapon mastery camos. It's almost unfortunate that this year we've gotten so many cool weapon camos, because I just keep thinking like, I'm probably going to go for the mastery camo in BO6 only because yes, I do need to level up all the guns anyway, so I'm going to be using them. But also it's like, should I spend my time trying to grind out to get some camo that will be cool? I'm sure it'll be excellent. But look what happened this year. Every other camo they release throughout the game's life cycle is better than that. I mean, a lot better.
I don't know if they're better. They're just newer. Like
I don't know. They're just
this year is quite good. We're just sick of seeing it. Probably.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They started coming out with the good camos like 2 months after. Like we were getting good camos in like January, and we were all already running them. You just get so many cool animated camos now, I think. So that kind of makes me not even want to camo grind either, because I just know they're going to come out with way better stuff throughout the year that I can get by simply loading into a game, completing contracts and plunder, and never firing my gun. And boom, I have all of the weapon prestige camos that are better. Like, you don't even see people running Orion or any of those anymore. What is it? What is it even called? Interstellar. See, I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like, I haven't ran it in months, really. I use all the other ones because they're so cool. So that's good, but then it also kind of sucks because then me personally, it's like, should I ruin my experience in BO6 multiplayer and force myself to not have fun to get some camp? Yeah, because this year we're probably going to have riot shields and stuff to do again. So should I put myself through that, or should I just wait till they start putting out other good camos? I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. So anyway, let's move on here. This one's interesting from Toller. Pros, cons of different playstyles. If I missed one, by the way, you can just interrupt me and we can do that. Pros, cons of different playstyles. Sniper support versus AR SMG setups. Playing to win versus playing for kills, etc. Yeah, and there was some community feedback that this was a good topic.
I'm gonna go pee.
Okay. Well, yeah, you kind of already intimated about this. So like using a sniper with a sniper support gun versus an AR and like an SMG. That kind of is like playing to win versus playing for kills, honestly. On Big Map, for example, if you're sniping, this might be different for solos, because in solos, if you get a down with a sniper, they are often just instantly fulled, because if they don't have a self-res, they just die. Whereas if you're playing quads, if you get a down, they have 3 teammates that could potentially res them, and they often do. So unless you're playing solos and you're sniping, you're usually going to have fewer kills than if you were not sniping, because it's just harder to get fulls, you know? Like, so if I'm on a rooftop and you're also on a rooftop and I snipe you, okay, your teammate is going to run over to you and res you before I'm able to like get on top of you and full you, or get to some higher building and then like have line of sight on that rooftop to like finish you. So at least in my experience and everyone I've talked to, you're probably going to get about the same amount of damage you otherwise would, maybe even then a little less if you're sniping versus using an AR, but you're most certainly going to get fewer kills. Now, on the other hand, I do think you will win more games if you have a sniper on your team. Doesn't have to be you necessarily, but there are, and to be fair, right now in the current meta, I'm not even sure that's true. I think the STG is just so insane right now that you actually shouldn't be sniping at all, even if you are playing for wins, because you can rip people off of head glitches so fast and so easily with an STG that you don't even need a sniper to rotate in. Because what I was going to say is, if you're playing quads and like one of you sniping and you're being held by a team while you're trying to rotate in, it's really nice having a sniper, because they can just peek down, like rip some guy's head, down him on that rooftop. And that's taking 2 people out of the fight, allowing you guys to way more easily rotate into zone. Because obviously you've downed one guy and then his teammate's gonna res him. So at the very least, you're taking 1 person out of the fight, if not 2. Whereas with an AR, normally, you're not going to be able to rip them off that head glitch for a down. They're going to LOS you before they get downed, and then you take them out of the fight for a little bit while they're plating, but not for very long. Whereas with a sniper, you'll be able to take them out a lot longer. And again, with the STG, especially with its headshot multiplier and just its damage, that's just not true. You can rip people off of a head glitch almost as easily with an STG as you can with a sniper. Like, actually, I've been downed many times before I have time to like go prone on a rooftop to someone good with an STG just ripping me off that heady and getting a bunch of headshot multipliers on an already insane time to kill gun. So right now, I don't think this is true. But in general, yeah, I do think having a sniper is going to equate to more wins, because you will be able to get out of situations like that way more easily. And you also can you can touch people from farther away with a sniper. Like if you're using a cat, you know, you can down people from 100 meters. Like with an AR, you're just not doing that generally. So that having that utility is really nice. It just gives your team more versatility having a sniper. So like, I do think that's going to equate to more wins generally. But it will be for fewer kills. So the pros and cons of like sniping versus using an AR, I think, is just, I guess it depends on what you value, winning more or getting more kills. And I don't think it's that big of a distinction either. I think there are some games where you will lose because you didn't have a sniper, whereas you would have won if you did. But those are like not that common. You know, usually if you would have won a game with a sniper, you would have also won it if you weren't, and vice versa. Generally, honestly. I do think those games do come up. I think if you play for like 3 hours and you lose a game and no one was sniping the entire time, there might have been 1 or 2 games in those 3 hours where if someone was sniping, you would have actually won instead. But, you know, that's 1 or 2 games in 3 hours. So does it matter to you that much? Maybe it does. For some people it does. So it's something to consider. But I think more than that, the biggest pro of playing for kills that you just don't get from playing to win is you get in way more reps doing gunfights. You get in way more practice being in a gunfight and being in a bad situation. And if you want to be like the best player you can possibly be, you need to practice gunfights. And if you're sniping, you're practicing your ability to shoot well, but you're not practicing being in a gunfight really, because you're most of the time shooting at someone who's not sniping and they're just like trying to run away from you or trying to push up to you so that they can punish you for sniping, where they use their STG at 20 meters and you're trying to shoot them back with your sniper support gun that will not compete. So you're not like practicing a gunfight. Exactly. You're practicing something and it's good practice to be sure. But I think the practice you would get, the reps you would get from not sniping are probably more important and more valuable skills generally, because even if you are sniping, eventually it becomes final circle and everyone you're fighting is 20 meters away from you. And if you had been using an AR the whole time, you would have been getting in reps for exactly this scenario. Whereas if you'd been sniping the whole time, you would not been getting in reps for this scenario. So I think there is a really big benefit to not sniping. You get to engage more with like heads up gunfights where positioning matters a lot. Knowing when to plate, when to reload, when to repeak, when to push, when to run, when to smoke, etc. That is, you're not going to get as many reps doing that when you're sniping, and those are I would say the most important skills to have, because again, even if you are the best sniper in the world, it eventually becomes final circle, and eventually that you're going to need those skills to win games or get kills, because you have to kill the last team if that's what you care about, you know? So like, yeah, I think that is probably, I would say, the biggest benefit outside of like winning versus kills or whatever. Now, if you are sniping though, you will also practice skills you wouldn't practice if you're just like using an AR necessarily, namely rotations and positioning. I think if you snipe like a whole game or a whole bunch of games, I think you're gonna get in more practice with being smart about rotates and preempting people and learning where to rotate and what position to hold and for how long. I think you get better practice doing that with sniping, because you can hold a greater range of positions at any given time, because again, you could touch people from farther. You have more range. Like, I can't hold this rooftop with an AR right now because I'm not going to be able to hit anyone from here with an AR. Whereas with a sniper, you can, you know? So I think that is worth mentioning as well. Basically, you're going to get more like battle royale experience if you're sniping, whereas you're going to get more like FPS experience if you're using an AR. That's obviously like kind of an oversimplification, but I think that is one way you can think about it. But if you're just asking like, is it better to play to win versus to play for kills? I don't have an answer for you. It's a video game. Do what you want. Like, some people like playing for kills. Some people like playing for wins. I think it's worth mentioning that if you're really good at getting kills and you play for kills, you're going to tend to win a lot, because if you kill everyone on the map, congratulations, you're the last team surviving. You won. And on the flip side, if you're playing to win a lot, that's going to contingent on that is going to be killing the last other team or teams in the area. Congratulations, you won and you got some kills. So like they're kind of two peas in the same little pod, but like what should you value more? I don't care. It's up to you. Whatever you have more fun doing is what you should value more. I don't think one is more like important than another. I do think one is more indicative of skill than another, though, and that's getting kills. I think it's a lot easier to win, 10 games in a row than it is to get 35 kills on Urzikstan. Because I can tell you this, I've done one and not the other. And it's pretty easy, Now, obviously, I play team Warzone most of the time. I've never won 10 in a row by myself or anything. I don't think I've won 10 in a row.
You never run 10 in a row anyways, yeah. But it's
we
easier to play.
Whatever.
It's easier to play for that and win that way than get a bunch of kills, yeah. Because there are bad players that can get
a lot of kills. Exactly.
There are pretty bad players that can get wins, but those players also cannot drop the high kill games, yeah. And to me, that's a lot more, yeah.
Here's another way to put it. Gigadad can win 10 games in a row of Warzone solos. He cannot get 40 kills solo quadding on Urzikstan.
With aim assist off like Biffle, yeah.
Yeah. On the other, right, exactly, yeah. On the other hand, Metaphor can get 45 kills in a game of solo quads. And also, if he cared that much, he could win 10 games in a row of BR solos.
Yeah.
He doesn't try to, but he could.
He always says that because people say like, oh, like you should have done this and like you would have won. He's like, dude, you guys think I care about winning? I don't care about winning. He's like, I just care about killing people. I
watch him throw, trying to get 360
he was like, if I get
it's a 1v1.
Yeah, he's like, if I win, like that's just a bonus on top. He's like, but believe me, I do not care at all about winning. I just want to run around and get kills. Yeah. But anyways, I think the answer is honestly pretty simple about the play style thing. It more just comes down to what how the meta is set up at the time. Like right now, it is undoubtedly AR, and like you were saying, like you can't hold people with an AR, blah blah as well. I actually kind of disagree because with the current sniper meta, it's a lot easier to hold people with full auto guns than bolties. I think because the car's been nerfed so much, the cat's more difficult to use. When people are running in the open smoking and they're running through smoke, like you're not killing them ever on that rotate because you can't see them. You're more likely to with the full auto gun at 100 meters, I think, in a lot of situations, just because you can get hit markers, you can follow them up. The STG kills in like 6 bullets. But once that is nerfed, then yeah, it kind of just depends how the meta is at the time. Like, I've been using some ground loot cats recently. I'm like, ooh, I forgot how satisfying it feels to use one of these big, chunky, slow snipers and get a one shot down at like 200 meters of some guy peeking me on a roof, So I was kind of thinking that actually. I was like, well, maybe once the STG gets nerfed, I'll try a Moors again, which I didn't like before because of how it auto un-ADSs every time. Or a cat again, just to give it a go, mix it up a little bit. But yeah, and then for playing to win versus playing for kills, people are like, oh, why not do both? Realistically, you don't. That's just not how it works. And people saying that also don't do that either. They do pretty much one or the other. If you end up winning, you end up winning if you're going for kills, but that's kind of just the way it works. There's nobody out there. Iron, OP Mark, those guys aren't winning 90% of their matches and also dropping 30 bombs. I was watching OP Mark the other day. There were 10 people left in his game. He had 2 kills. He's not playing for kills. He's literally just playing for wins.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much.
That's not to say he's bad, by the way. We're not saying that. It's just he obviously values winning.
That's what, exactly.
Which is totally valid. And, a lot of people like watching that. I'm one of them. And a lot of people like playing that way. That's fine. But it just depends on what you want. And I think you can learn a lot from both types of players too. Like I learn a lot watching And I mean, half the guns I use are from OP marked.
Yeah.
Watching him and getting wins and stuff, he was like using the SZ Holotherm and the Dragon's Breath Haymaker. I was like, oh, okay. That's a good, like, I want to win this game setup. Because you're just giga toxic. And that'll help you win. But you can't, like, you know, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, they're both valid and valuable. And then, like, again, that little don't panic if you're in a sliver of cover. I watch Metaphor do that all the time, and he's like the play to win guy, you know. So I learned a lot from watching either one. And they're both valid. And you can pick up things from both play styles, I think. But yeah, you are right though. It does depend on the meta too. Like if you mean just pros and cons in terms of like doing well, whether that means kills or wins. When the card came out, the pros of using a car were you could kill people, and the pros of using an AR didn't exist.
Yeah,
you would just lose. It was just a sniper meta. So yeah, it also does depend a lot on the meta at the time. That's true too. Like you couldn't not use a car when the car came out. You would you couldn't do anything. But I think it's like the exact opposite right now. You cannot snipe right now. You're just dumb if you do. SCG does basically everything a sniper does at this moment. So yeah, that's another thing too. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here?
Yeah, I think a lot of these next ones require like us to kind of write notes and pre-think about them. There's a little more research
next time
involved.
I'm going to do that.
I think we need to do that more next time.
I wrote down my own topics. That's kind of what I spent my time doing. But next time we'll revisit this and we'll actually write some more stuff down.
Yeah, because I think the next few are interesting. It's just we can't answer them right now.
Yeah, so we'll backtrack for some of these we're going to skip right now next time. And we'll actually like kind of flesh out our thoughts more. So if you've been skipped, you haven't been permanently skipped necessarily. Keep that in mind. But there are some things we could probably do without much more thought. Let's see. Benji said, what's your experience with some guns that are really good but aren't in the meta conversation, like an MW2 hidden gem or attachments that do more than advertised? We've kind of already talked about them, so I won't spend too much time on this. But again, the SZ Holotherm. Like I think everyone's kind of already tuned into the Spectre Microtherm, I think it's called, which is the white hot sight picture thermal optic that people will use on like SMGs. That's like not a super common attachment, but you will see it and it is quite good. But I think everyone kind of knows about that now. But I think a lot of people still just don't know about the SZ Holotherm. It is the second least zooming optic besides the Microtherm, but it is like actually usable on a long range gun. And a lot of people just do not use it. You can't use it in ranked, to be fair.
Yeah.
But on Urzikstan, it's really good, and a lot.
I think
of
it's more just people don't like
using it.
Because it's like, you know, it's been out since last year. It's not like people don't know it's there. It's just like I think it just comes down to people don't like it. Because it was used quite a bit in MW too.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people know about it and don't like it, so they don't use it. But a lot of people just like forgot about it. I was one of them.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been using it for a lot longer than I have been if I had like remembered it exists. Because yeah, you're right. Like I did know it existed. I had used it in Warzone too, but I kind of just like forgot about it. And then I think I saw OP Mark using it and I was like, oh, okay, let me try this again. And it's like, oh, this is awesome. So yeah, I think that's something. I think tac stance in general is another hidden gem that is underutilized, but we've talked about that a lot. I think a Dragon's Breath Haymaker right now is also kind of slept on. I don't see many people using it, but I see some people.
Or the Reclaimer,
and it's quite good. And the Reclaimer, yeah, those are also quite good, and not many people use them. I finally was able to see some secondhand POVs of the Dragon's Breath Haymaker, by the way. Someone just shit all over Metaphor with it.
Oh, no.
And it's like, it's exactly as I suspected. Not a great time to kill, but you can't see anything when you're getting shot by it. And I think because of like the damage from the pellets themselves, plus the fire ticks, you're like constantly getting aim flinch. And it feels like it's more than if you're just getting like shot by a static. That may or may not be true, but it definitely looks like it's harder to shoot back when you're getting shot by that thing. And he was just dead. So, you know, that's like maybe another little hidden gem. But other than that, as far as guns go, I don't think there's really anything else that's like a hidden gem. I think some hidden gem attachments would be like the Bruin Bastion angled underbarrel for crazy hip fire and or tac stance spread. If you use tac stance builds, I'm sure you know about this, but if you don't, it's really good. And a lot of people didn't really know about it.
Well, it also gives what? Doesn't that one also give firing aim stability, I think, and then like horizontal recoil and movement speed or something? That. It's good because I don't tac stance or hit fire, and I've used that attachment on some guns because it felt the best in the firing range. I can't think of exactly what it does right now.
Yeah, it gives a lot. Another hidden gem attachment that I still use that I rarely see people use is the sonic suppressor, namely for SMGs, because it is the only muzzle device. It's definitely the only suppressor, and I'm pretty sure it's also the only muzzle device, period, that you can put on any SMG that will increase your damage range. Every other suppressor will give you like other things like recoil control or velocity or something like that. But the only muzzle you can increase your damage range on an SMG with is the sonic suppressor. And it also keeps you off minimap. So if I'm running a muzzle on an SMG, most of the time I'm running that. Because getting an extra couple meters of damage range on a sub is really good. Because a lot of SMGs have a very steep damage drop off from damage range 1 to 2. And if you are in a situation where you're using a static and so are they, but you have a sonic suppressor and they're using a Zem compensator, and you happen to be at 15.5 meters where you happen to be inside your first damage range still, and they don't because they're not using it, you will win for free because you are killing them so much faster than they're killing you. And like, is that very niche scenario going to happen often? No, not really. But there are a lot of times where you will get like one or two of your bullets will stay in your first damage range because of that, when it otherwise wouldn't have. Like they're running away from you or something. That happens probably all the time. So like, that's a big deal in my opinion. And I love that attachment, and people just do not run it. Because they're running, like I see people running the Quartermaster suppressor on SMGs right now because it's like the fun and shiny new toy. And I just think that is completely insane.
Well, it's because it gives recoil control.
Right. But yeah, that's true. But I just don't think that's like, I don't think you need to be running a muzzle for recoil control on your sub. Like, because you're probably already running like the Guardian stock or whatever. And like, I don't need the extra Quartermaster suppressor recoil control on my static. I feel like I don't. So I don't know. I see people running a Quartermaster on a static, and that to me is crazy. Like you could get away with losing that little bit of, well, it's a lot of recoil control to be fair, but I think you could get away with not using it on an SMG anyway. And I'd much rather have the damage range generally. But like whatever, even in that case, if that's not true or whatever, people I just feel like don't know that this exists. So thought I'd point that out. Like if you want to run a Zem instead of a sonic suppressor Well, actually, you wouldn't ever run as M anymore now.
That's the thing, because the quartermaster is just better. It keeps you off mini-map, better recoil control.
Recoil, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Zemin might help more with some of the smoke, the muzzle smoke. I'm not really sure if that actually makes a difference, but...
Yeah. Yeah. And then I guess I'd also say the Jack glassless optic.
Yeah, that's the go-to optic for me.
A lot of people like run the NIDAR still and or now, which is just another red dot that has like a really nice sight picture that a lot of people prefer.
Yeah.
But and like a lot of streamers run this too. And
most people run the NIDAR.
A lot of normal people to switch to the NIDAR instead. And I feel like people are forgetting that the Jack glassless, it doesn't have as good of a sight picture as like most red dots, frankly. I think those little tabs that come into the middle are super annoying, to be fair. However, I'm willing to have those to get firing aim stability, which the Jack glassless gives you that no other red dot does. So I feel like that's kind of a hidden gem. I feel
and
like
that's a big difference, by the way.
Firing aim stability. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. Well, I guess I'm not, because like Metaphor runs the NIDAR on everything, and it's weird as a K-Bam player that he runs that when the Jack glassless helps so much with visual recoil. But then also Metaphor takes every SMG gunfight at 5 meters, so I don't even know why he runs an optic, period. But yeah, like for me, like it is such a big difference. If you set up your static, whatever SMG you're using, go into the firing range, use a NIDAR, then immediately swap to a Jack glassless, it is a big difference. It is not just, oh, I kind of notice it. No, it's like adding another recoil attachment to your gun. It is a massive, massive difference. And I think especially if you're on K-Bam, you want that more when you're more looking at things when you're tracking them and trying to follow them, and you need any help you can get, the Jack glassless is absolutely the way to go. I think for good controller players with an SMG, I totally understand using a NIDAR. The NIDAR looks great. I keep trying to make it work. Believe me, every single gun that I build, I'm like, I want to use a NIDAR because it's a better sight picture. Test it in the firing range, hate it every single time. Just can't do it. It's not worth it for me when the Jack glassless exists. So that's, at this point, my #1 favorite attachment in the game for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I run the quartermaster's suppressor on everything because I like the recoil control, because I use my SMG further out, especially with the static where it kills far at range. I mean, use a quartermaster suppressor, a glassless optic, you're killing people at 40 meters easily. If you just keep chasing them or your AR is out of ammo, you'll get in gunfights a lot at longer ranges, and it's nice to have all that added recoil control and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. And the only thing you're giving up is like a slightly worse sight picture. It's not like the Jack glassless is a terrible optic or anything. It's fine. It's serviceable to me. It's more annoying than like hindering me, honestly. Like, it annoys me that those tabs are there, but I don't think I've ever like lost someone because of the tabs being there.
Yeah, I didn't like it at first, but now I've become used to it.
Optics.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Because there are some optics where it's like, this guy literally disappeared in the fat bezel on the right side of this thing, and I died, and I wouldn't have if I was using a better optic. Those optics do exist, and I've tried using them, and then I stop using them. But that is not the case for the glassless at all.
Yeah, it's because also with the glassless, I think it feels like the dot sits up a little bit higher, which means people are pushing towards you, you're shooting at them, they slide, you have to readjust to start tracking them and see them. You're far less likely to lose them with an optic like the glassless compared to something like the FSS Spectre, for example, the little thermal. That's why I hate it. It sits very low on the gun, so if somebody goes 1 inch below your reticle, they are gone and you've lost that gunfight because you cannot track them, you cannot see them, you don't know where they went.
Yeah.
So I think that's something people don't always think about, is some optics do sit up a little bit higher than others, and you are far less likely to lose people in your sights. Yeah. So that's something to pay attention to also. But as I say, the best thing you can do is just go into the firing range and test everything. Because, yeah, for me, it's not worth running the NIDAR at all. The glassless is so much better, in my opinion. The quartermaster's really good. I like having the recoil control, all of that. But And then then attachments just change on every gun. Try to prioritize firing aim stability. That's a very important stat that does not show up in the detailed stats. So you see that and you may not think it's doing something because the detailed stats don't show a number for it. It's helping, and it's helping a lot. So that's why the under barrels that help with that, and stocks help with firing aim stability too, some of them. So definitely run those as well. And then for me, a lot of times too, if I have a floating attachment on an SMG, what I'll end up running is a rear grip for like a little bit added recoil control, because some of those will do, I think, like 5 to 10% recoil control. I think one of the common ones is 9 actually. And if you have a floating attachment, like I want to say my static, I might have that on my static right now.
Probably because you don't run a mag on it.
Exactly, yeah, because I'm running a suppressor, a barrel, an optic, a stock. And I don't know if my 5th attachment right now is an under barrel or a rear grip, but I think a lot of people kind of ignore rear grips in this game because they're not as good as they were in Warzone 1. You're kind of not used to running them, but some of them, they basically don't have any cons at all, and it's just free recoil control. And you should be checking into those too, but just use the firing range for everything.
Yeah,
like it is wild how a lot of the builds vary. Like Cope, he died one match and I picked up his static and I thought it was a joke. I'm like, is this your static? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, Cope, this thing has the most recoil of any meta SMG that's been in Warzone 2. He's like, well, yeah, I'm on controller. It doesn't matter. I'm like, how do you use this thing? And he's like, it's perfect. It doesn't matter. I'm like, you're a piece of shit, man. I don't know how you use this thing. It's wild. It's like I think he runs like no stock. So his optic.
He runs no stock?
I think he does, or maybe it's just light stock. I don't know. But the one time that I picked up, this was also early on when the static came out, so this maybe isn't the build he's still running. But the reticle, the optic, was 4 feet away from my eye. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on here. Why is my gun so far out? I was so confused. I'm like, dude, this is such a bad gun build. I can't believe you can use this. But,
yeah.
So just test everything in the firing range. Do it to your liking.
Yeah. 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 By the way, one other point on if you do have a free slot on an SMG and you're thinking of running like a sprint to fire and ADS rear grip, don't. It's almost never worth it unless we're talking about like an AMR9 that has like terrible sprint to fire or ADS. I don't know which, because usually the rear grip for an SMG, it'll help your sprint to fire and or ADS by like, let's say 5%, let's even say 10%. That means your ADS speed is going from 80 milliseconds to 72. Okay, that's less than a server tick. That's like a 100th of a server tick. Your monitor hasn't refreshed in that time. That does not matter. Your aim down sight speed is fast enough. Now, if we're talking about like a recoil stock versus like no stock, that's going to be a dramatic difference for your sprint to fire and your aim down sight time, even on an SMG. But the rear grips are usually bait for sprint to fire and ADS time.
Yeah, those are always
on
terrible. Do not use those ever.
Yeah, because like 5% of 80 millisecond sprint to fire is what, 4 milliseconds? 76 milliseconds? That you might as well not have an attachment there and you would never know. It doesn't matter. Whereas the recoil control ones are always helpful. Like 5% recoil control is way more noticeable and beneficial than 5% sprint to fire time on an SMG. Like those are basically never worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, just a quick aside there. What are we at, by the way?
128.
Okay.
So maybe we look and find a fairly quick one, or we end it. But let's see. Let's do a little search here. I think this Bates
one is good.
This Bates one, huh?
To end on. Yeah. Okay. Bates asks, talks. Here's another micro topic. This is a good one. This is exactly kind of this is what we're looking for. The everlasting argument of using meta versus sticking to what you're comfortable with. Great topic. So this is, and there's one like TikToker we make fun of who says like comfort over meta or whatever. There is some truth to that, but it's not like a binary, you know? Like,
it's usually for attachments, not guns, like Bates is insinuating. Yeah,
it's definitely applies to attachments for sure. I think you only use what's comfortable attachment wise. In this game especially, it's not like Warzone 1 where you just always knew what attachments you were running regardless of the gun, because of all the new stats and all the new attachments and stuff. For sure. But even when it comes to guns, I do think there is a point where you want to use what's comfortable over what's meta. But it's not like a binary. Like, you can't just use an MCW because you're comfortable with it because it shoots straight in Warzone and expect to do well. It's not good enough. Especially with the STG, you're never going to do well with an MCW. I don't care how comfortable you are with it. But there is a conversation to be had about using a comfortable gun that's like A tier versus like a meta S tier gun that you miss way more bullets with. In that case, and that does happen, that will come up, you should use the A tier gun that you're more comfortable with, that you land more shots with. But I think mainly it comes down to, when I say comfort or think of comfort in this example, I'm really thinking of like hitting shots. So like, if you can hit an equal number of bullets with an S tier gun versus an A tier gun, but you feel more comfortable with the A tier gun, I don't care. Use the S tier gun. You're not allowed to use what you're comfortable with in that case. But if what you mean by comfort is I land way more shots with the A tier gun than the S tier gun, in that case, it's obviously worth using the A tier gun, because there is a theoretical time to kill that a gun will have. And then there's like a practical time to kill that you will have with that gun. And that is the only thing that's actually important. So again, in the meta we're in right now, this doesn't matter because everyone's comfortable with an STG because it doesn't have recoil. And the fire rate is so comfortable and like cozy, and everything about the STG is so easy to use. In addition, it has the best theoretical time to kill by a lot. So like right now, it doesn't matter. You just use an STG because I guarantee you're comfortable with it. And if you're not comfortable with any gun in the game. Like, it's the easiest to use gun. And also it's the best on paper. And also it's the best practical time to kill for you because it has so little recoil. So there's no decision to be made right now. This doesn't matter right now. At least in terms of long range guns. But like some people in our Discord have been talking about the Super E, and they're like, yeah, I know the static has like way better long range damage outside of like the Super E's first damage range. And I know that it's like whatever, more versatile, and even up close, it kills faster than a Super E if you put in like combination on true game data. But Super E's still competitive. If you hit all chest shots, it does kill faster than a static up to like 15 meters. And also, I'm way more comfortable with the Super E than the static. You know what? I think you should be using a Super E then. Honestly, it's not like it's so bad that you can't use it, because it does kill faster up to 15 meters or so if you're hitting only chest shots than a static. So that's the most important thing for an SMG, up close time to kill. And you're going to be hitting mostly chest shots up close for most players. So like, Super E's not bad. You are going to suffer a lot outside of that first damage range. It's going to kill quite a bit slower than the static, but you can alter your playstyle to account for that fact, and just know that when you're running the Super E, you're going to want to get close to people. And luckily, Super E's got insane movement speed, so you can easily close gaps to do that. And if you're way more comfortable with that gun than you are with the static, I think it does make sense for you to run the Super E, to pick comfort over meta in that case, for example, even though, Yeah, it makes sense in that case, I think, to pick comfort over meta, which is supery over static, if you're one of those people. So I do think there are times when you do want to pick comfort over meta. And I think the supery static example is like literally the perfect example to demonstrate this. But the only reason that I would say is valid is because the supery is good enough for you to pick it over the meta gun. But there are some guns, I don't care how comfortable you are with it. You can't use it over the meta gun.
And that's what Bates is talking about.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. Yeah. So,
God damn it.
Within reason, yes, comfort over meta, but it has to be within reason. And the supery static, it is within reason. But like I don't know, the Lockman Shroud over the static, not within reason. You can't do that. No, I don't care how comfortable you are with it. It's way worse, probably. So
yes, yeah. So that I think that's kind of what it comes down to is Bates is saying, comfort versus meta. The thing is, Bates, you would be doing twice as well if you used a gun build that wasn't complete and utter dog shit. That's the issue. Yeah. You're not using comfort builds. There's no way you're comfortable with these. You're lying to us, Bates. You're lying to us, right? You're not comfortable using this stuff.
He's using a 4 attachment.
I've built one. I've literally built one, and I'm in the firing range. His latest build. It's horrendous, Bates. You can't be comfortable with this. I promise you. Use something else, man. Like you have to. You're just throwing. Just stop it. So there is you can be comfortable with certain things. I can be comfortable using the MTZ 5.56. Am I going to win gunfights at 40 meters versus an STG? Never, not once, ever, if it's a heads-up gunfight. But I can kill people fast enough. It's a fun gun to use. BP-50 SMGs, not exactly top meta, but for Rebirth, they're fun to use. They're good. You can definitely compete with them. But some of these gun builds, I mean... He's got one here that's an FSS Hurricane. Hey, Bates, man. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this right now. I'm pulling this up. No, we are going, let's see. Hold on. I got to do...
Live gun review.
Let's see. Is it this guy? Let's see. We're going to do game capture. Okay, here we go, guys. I've full screened it, so our cameras aren't even up at the moment. I'm showing you guys. Here's the build he's posted, and I'm shooting it. That's without recoil control. I mean, it does. Look at this. It doesn't have good movement. It has insane sway. It has insane smoke. He's not hitting any shots. Let me just pull this up real quick. Here's a meta STG that I've built. Boy, look how much easier that is to hit shots, guys. Bates, you're not comfortable with these guns. You're just building them wrong, and you're pissing me off. So yeah, just stop it. Build your guns better and smarter. So yeah, when it comes to the meta, you pretty much nailed it. There are certain guns that are just meta. Everyone can be comfortable with them. Sure, just set it up your own way. Bates, just use an STG, set it up how you like it. But you have to at least use the correct gun. You can't use an SMG that's killing at 1100 milliseconds at 1 meter. You just can't, man. You're not going to compete with that. So stop it.
Exactly.
And you also throw on the worst optic in the game. So just stop it. You're not comfortable with it. But yeah. So that's what I think.
Yeah. And again,
you've ruined my day, Bates.
Yeah. Shout out to Bates for that. Good topic, but you gotta. Yeah, it's not coming from a good place. It's coming from a bad place. Another thing I'll say on this topic too is like people will pick off meta guns so that when they don't win every single game, instead of blaming it on not being as good as they think they are, they can blame it on, oh, I only lost that gunfight because I'm not a meta slave like this guy. So it's like a psychological defense mechanism. A lot of people do that, and we know what you're doing. Because you're afraid to use the meta guns and then still lose that gunfight, and then you don't have an excuse anymore to defend to psychologically shield yourself from the realization that, hey, that guy's just better than you. Actually, it's not because he's a meta slave. It's because you're not as good as you think you are. Yeah. So if you're one of those people, seek therapy, I guess. And then if you're not one of those people, but you just like to, I don't know, use whatever guns or you think are fun, you should try using meta stuff for a while, and you'll quickly get over losing the fun of using your favorite gun for the fun of like winning a lot more gunfights, actually. Because it turns out when you use meta stuff, you do better. And when you're doing better than you otherwise would, you're going to be having a lot more fun than you were before. Even if you have to sacrifice losing your LARP M4 build that you've been using or whatever. Like, I get that that's fun, like using like guns you think are cool or that feel cool to you, but aren't very good stat wise. I get that that's fun to do, but it's also fun to like get twice as many kills as you'd otherwise be getting and twice as few deaths as you'd otherwise be getting. That's also fun too. And I'm not even being sarcastic. Give it a try, actually. You'll be surprised. And I think the amount of fun you'll get from doing well will supersede the amount of fun you will have from using, again, whatever terrible guns you're using or something. So, again, there is something to be said about comfort over meta, but it has to be within reason. Because otherwise, you're just screwing yourself. I don't care if you use a hurricane in my rebirth lobby. In fact, I want you to, because you're a free kill. You're just a free kill. Yum. Let me gobble up some free SR that way.
I'm gobbling up baits with that FSS hurricane.
You're just getting gobbled. Yeah, by everyone, by the way. Just absolutely gobbled. Bro's a snack using a hurricane.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you're in my lobby, but trust me, you are not doing yourself any favors, and you'd be having a lot more fun if you just got with the program. Yeah, frankly. But again, yeah, like Super Reverse Static, good example right now. I think if that's way more comfortable for you, or if you really like that movement speed that you get from the Super E, which is totally valid, and movement speed's super relevant, and good, then yeah, go for that. Like, that's fine. Even though it's not the meta SMG right now, it does have enough of it's competitive enough that you can do it. And if you feel way more comfortable with it, you'll probably do better with it, honestly, than the static. That's going to be true for some people, and I think that's, again, valid. But, like I said, has to be within reason. And the FSS Hurricane, not within reason. Way outside of reason. Yeah, so far outside of reason.
Not great.
So don't do that. Yeah, so that is it, boys and girls. If you enjoyed this episode, this is what we do on Patreon. This is one of the topic or episode types we do, and we'll continue to do, among others. So if you wanted more content, if you wanted ad-free episodes and early access episodes, patreon.com/thedropshot. We hope you enjoyed. We will be back next week. We'll post our schedule on Tuesday, if you're listening to this publicly. COD Next coming up, man. We're going to be live streaming that. It won't be next week. It'll be the week after. But that's going to be
28th, 9 a.m. Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to go live for that. That's going to replace our news pod for that week. And that's going to be really fun. And I'm extremely excited to get into that. And then probably that Saturday, we will have had the beta. So we'll do a little COD Next / beta review type beat. That's going to be fun. But that's all the week after next. So next week, pretty standard stuff. We'll post our schedule on Tuesday. Join the Discord or follow our Twitter or both at the Dropshot Pod to see the schedule and all that. And we love you, we thank you, and we appreciate you. And also, next time we do a micro topic episode like this one, when we pull your guys' topics, we will pre-notate our thoughts on them. Because yeah, we skipped a lot of good ones because they merit more consideration from us. That's our bad. We should have done that this episode, but I frankly forgot that was something we should do.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I was writing my own stuff instead. So if you were skipped, you were not necessarily skipped. We're going to go back through everything and we're actually going to pull stuff, put it on our document, and write notes beforehand. Because yeah, some of these warrant more, again, consideration. So thanks. Love ya. We'll see you next time. Stay humble.
Stay humble.